Good morning. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. My name is Marilyn Orr, President of the club, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. This meeting broadcast is available on HCTV, as well as our Rotary of Hudson YouTube channel and Facebook. Our club meets weekly using this digital platform, Zoom. When we meet in person, it's at Laurel Lake Retirement Community for breakfast. We hope to get back to that soon. We meet most Wednesday mornings from 7:15 to 8:30 a.m. So come out to join us for a meeting. We would love to have you as a guest. To learn more about Rotary, our club, and the impact we are having on our local community and the world, please visit our website, rotaryhudson.org. So enjoy this meeting today and help us share the message that Rotary opens doors of opportunity.
Ready? Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Hudson. I'm Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. Our invocation this morning is by Liz Ramsey from her house. She's still recovering.
Yeah. Good morning, Rotarians. Hello, can you all hear me? Ron, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh, okay, let's start prayer. My prayer this morning is used regularly at the President's Chapel of George Washington University and was said by the first President of the United States, George Washington. Let's start. Almighty God, we make our earnest prayer that thou wilt keep the United States in thy holy protection, that thou wilt incline the hearts of the citizens to cultivate a spirit of subordination and obedience to government and entertain a brotherly affection and love for one another and for their fellow citizens of the United States at large. And finally, that thou wilt most graciously be pleased to dispose us all to do justice, to love mercy, and to demean ourselves with that charity, humility, and pacific temper of mind, which were the characteristics of the divine author of our blessed religion, without a humble imitation of whose example in these things we can never hope to be a happy nation. Grant our supplication, we beseech thee, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. And thank you for listening to the prayer of our first President, George Washington.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay.
And now to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test, Richard Nebbiolo.
Good morning, Rotarians. Let's honor our country and Old Glory with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Richard. And now our president, Patrick Shearer.
Good morning, Rotarians. Just a couple of reminders before we get to going on today's program. First, tonight is our first Pints for Polio event at Hop Tree Brewing. Starts at 5:30. $1 for every pint goes to fight polio in the last 2 countries that polio is in. So come and join us for a social event and help us to eradicate polio. It's not pints of blood, it's pints of beer. Yes. And thank you for clarifying, Andy. A couple things that, well, first of all, I have failed to recognize our July birthdays and our July anniversaries. So just wanted to recognize our July birthdays. Dan Williams, Mike Lewis, Tom Tobin, Joe Zapatowski, Marilyn Orr, whose birthday is today. So I think maybe Ed Sogan, Nicole Kowalski, and James Ahern. Club anniversaries are Elizabeth Ramsey, Lynn Zupp, and George Smuts this month. So I found this quote and I thought it was pretty interesting given when it was said and our situation that we have in society today. It has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity. Albert Einstein. So with that, I would like to have Jane Howington, our city manager, come forward and introduce our speakers for today.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. It is a delight to be here this morning and to be able to bring with me 2 very talented staff members that are I shouldn't say that, that are our data analytics experts. Several years ago, we had the opportunity to have a student from Miami University come in and do a fellowship in January for the city. That was Emily Fernandez, and she was getting her degree in public administration and came to us for a month, and we introduced data analytics, and we pulled Susan Chapman, who's been with the city for almost 25 years. And so has a long institutional knowledge of what's happened in the city and where things are going. The 2 of them just hit it off and just took off on data analytics and what we could do to make evidence-based decisions. Emily went back to Miami after that month-long fellowship, and we never lost track of her. We actually had Susan and Emily attend a conference in Columbus together to start their training on specifically data analytics. And then we lured Emily away from Cincinnati, who one of my coworkers when I went to Miami University was there and trying to recruit her, and I was trying to recruit her here. I won. So we've had several years and much training. The 2 of them have gone to Suffolk University for some of their training with municipal data analysis. And they've done a data hub, which they're going to show you today and give you some examples of how the city is using data to make evidence-based decisions and how we're using data to increase education for our citizens. And with that, I will give you Emily Fernandez and Susan Chapman. Do you guys? This.
You okay? Thank you. Okay. Can you see? Is it good enough or not? Okay. There's a big lag. Okay. Hi, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. I want to thank everyone for being here. Today, Emily and I are going to be talking about the data hub that we have created with the city's initiative to become more transparent and to use data derived from various departments. We created a data hub that is actually just the beginning of this initiative. in order to try to present visual information and analyze to make evidence-based decisions and also to explore opportunities to improve our city's efficiencies. So with the Data Hub, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit to show you some of the elements that are on here. We have a few featured items such as our permits dashboard that was just originally created. And we have several other interactive dashboards. The general fund, we also have our police dashboard, and a lot of these dashboards are developed so that way we can actually analyze performance in the departments as well. We also have our growth data management dashboards that we have just now started working towards. Additionally, we have search tools that we have presented for the community to use. I apologize, this is in order to look for their utilities and or cemetery locations in the city. Story maps that are presented on the dashboard are actually developed by our engineering department as well. And these story maps actually create a story for you for the entire city and the capital projects that are occurring in the city at this time. A few static reports that we put together annually are included on this Data Hub. Our GIS interactive map is on this. So there is a lot of information on this Data Hub that we've presented to try to become more transparent. So that way our residents and the public have the ability to go on our website and see this information. So with these dashboards, our intent is to reveal patterns that we may have otherwise missed in not creating a story or presenting them visually. So I would like to discuss today just briefly our police crash dashboard. Okay. And it may take a few minutes to load. So this dashboard was developed pretty much on two intents. Our engineering department and our police department analyzed crashes, and they felt it would be helpful to be able to see the intersections or non-intersection related crashes that have occurred in the city of Hudson. So this dashboard is interactive. As we scroll into various areas that may be an issue in Hudson, we can see that this particular intersection here at, Valley View and Hines Hill Road, yes, was definitely a hot spot. So in addition to being able to look at certain intersections or non-intersection related crashes that occurred in the city, we also tried to find out, what type of crashes did occur, what was most frequently occurring at these intersections. So by scrolling down, we can look at crashes by collision type. We can try to see if, it was a cloudy day. All of these graphs and charts do change with your selections. So with that, though, a few intersections that have come up that recently have had traffic signals placed at them or no turn on red signals. One of them was the intersection at Hudson Drive and Terex Road. On this interactive map and also searching in that particular area, we were able to see as well that that particular intersection did indeed have several crashes there. So what we did find out, though, is that those crashes that occurred at that intersection were primarily rear end accidents based on the fact that someone was trying to make a right on red, and then the person behind them thought that they went and they didn't. So to correct that problem, the city was able to put a no turn on red there. So that's just, I guess, a particular example of using data to try to find, make a really good evidence-based decision that what do we need here. Another intersection that is coming up right now, a resolution was passed, is for Middleton and Stowe Road. And again, that intersection is also, a high, incident area. So with that, one more thing I did want to add. With this data that we have derived from the police department, we're also potentially looking at creating a quarterly dashboard to assess quarterly what is occurring with traffic in the city of Hudson as well. So the police department's data has definitely been utilized in a very different manner versus exporting into, say, perhaps an Excel file. So with that, I will turn it over to Emily Fernandez.
Thank you. Can I have the mouse too, please? So Susan gave that awesome overview of our data hub already, and all of the things you'll see today are available there, but I just have it open in another tab in the interest of time today. So I'd like to zoom in on one of our other dashboards, and this is a utility dashboard with a focus on non-public utilities. So we really dialed into places that have well water or that are still on septic systems rather than public sewer in order to really understand where we can identify what would be considered underserved areas, underserved by public utility. So before I get into what's exactly on the map, I'll just point out that some of these large numbers around the board are high level statistics about what you're going to see in the details. So for example, that 3298 number shows that about a third of our residents, 32%, have well water. That next number, you can see almost 800 residents or 8% of our addresses have a septic system, which means they do not have sewer from the county because the sewer is from the Department of Sanitary Sewer Services at Summit. But zooming into here, you can see that we're really looking at the intersection of where our water lines are to kind of analyze expansion efforts. So up in the top right, you'll see a little bit of pink. Oops, I apologize, there's a lag. That's Cleveland water lines. So they just have a little bit of a presence in our city. The orange is Akron water lines. And then you can see this large area of light blue lines. Those are Hudson water lines. So what we're really looking at on this is, again, where does it make most sense to direct our expansion efforts? What's the logical way to get more water to more people, and what's going to be cost effective? So some additional tools on the dashboard. As you're looking over here on the left, you can see there's the ability to turn on and off these different layers with some buttons. So for example, if I only wanted to see septic systems, again, just a bit of a lag there, you can see the map filters down to just the green dots. So these are color coded to begin with, but this is using the buttons as a way to help see them more clearly. So green is addresses that have only septic systems. The blue is addresses that have only well water, but not septic. And pink was any address that actually has both. So dialing in on septic systems, we can see here, let me pull up an example. As you click on each of these points, you can get even more detail. So you'll see the address that you clicked on, and then you'll see which water service it has. So it has City of Hudson water. And then it tells you there's a septic system there that was installed in 2008. So again, as we're looking to make data-driven decisions, and as we're looking to be, transparent and keep up and be proactive about possibly forthcoming regulations, something to consider is that over time, the EPA could add additional regulations on septic systems because they can have leaking problems into groundwater. So having a tool like this available will help us be able to very quickly and visually identify, how we can pinpoint and react to those areas in the city. So zooming back out, let me turn everything back on. One other thing about this dashboard and many of our boards is that they are searchable by address as well. So here, someone shout out a number for me. Give me one digit, someone will give the next one. All right, I heard a 2. Next digit. Awesome, 2, 3, we're going consecutive order. All right, we'll go with the first address that comes up. So we've got 6231 Simon Lane. So there was a selectable list, if you noticed, of different addresses in the city as I began to type. So if I live at, 6231 Simon, I can just verify that my septic system was installed in 1984. And I am in fact on well water, or the city on the other side could look at that as well. So that's another example of, how we're using these dashboards to really see a picture that we can't see in typical numbers on a spreadsheet or, a plain text source. I'd also just like to point out one of our search tools briefly. So as Susan mentioned, we have these dashboards that really show, a visual map and interactive graphs and statistics that all play together. And then we also have search tools where residents directly can find information that might be relevant to them. So for example, we have a search tool where if you do have public utilities, you can type in your address and see the phone number for your electric company, for your water company, and for the county, if you have, everyone in Hudson has county sewer, so that information is available as well. And another example is our leaf search tool. So during the fall months, Hudson actually offers a leaf pickup service. So we pick up any leaves that residents leave on their curb. And if you look at this, what we've tried to do is make a kind of a more accurate timeline of when leaves are going to get picked up, because we've heard from residents that they'll often take their leaves down. And if the trucks are off schedule, then sometimes they have to, re-rake them and whatnot. So to try to respond to our resident concerns, we're looking towards making this real time. But for now, we are getting closer and closer to a more real-time version of the leaf pickup schedule. So let's do the address game again. Who's got a number? Oh, okay. You took over the whole address. All right. So, like I noted on the last example, you can see, this list starts to show up. So these are addresses in Hudson specifically, and you can see we've got 2351 Ravenna Street. So let's go with that first. Here, I can do that one next. So you can see the result during leaf pickup season, you'll get accurate results on pickups that have occurred. But of course, this is from 2020. So you can see for your address, previous pickups occurred on, and all 3 dates or all 3 pickups that we offer have already occurred. And you can see when those happened in 2020. During leaf pickup season, the kind of dynamic feature we've added is that above this, the pickup progress, right now it says pickup number 2 and, all of them are complete. We have other options that fill in there that, you're expected to be picked up in 2 days or in 5 days to give a better estimate of when the crews will actually arrive. So, did we want to do Aurora Street before we wrap up here? Okay. All right. So I'm just going to bring us back over to the hub itself for a second. Sorry, is this our? Okay, it's just loading. But basically, we just wanted to give that overview that Susan provided and kind of conclude with following up on these examples. Oops, I apologize. Wrong page. Susan will pull up the hub for us. I'm using her laptop today. But as Jane and Susan outlined, we're really trying to take data from all these different departments and reach them in the format that they already use, whether that's pulling crashes from the police dashboards or working with Public Works to, create a simple survey for them to tell us what schedule they're on so that we can funnel that into the LEAF tool. We're working more and more towards trying to meet departments and other staff where they are with their data and see what can we do with it today, where can we start? And as Jane outlined, for the past 2 years, we've really had an intense focus on trying to build that out. And one of the next projects on the agenda for us with that, if you could just show the rec center without opening it, just so you can see here, what we presented at council last night actually was a recreational amenities study. There it is on the left. We won't get into the details here today because we've covered a lot, but this will be kind of the next use case. So, coming up next, we're looking at an inventory of recreational facilities in and around Hudson to understand the supply of places like basketball courts or baseball or yoga and, fitness classes. And we'll match that then with the demand we see from residents to try to understand if there is a need for additional recreational facilities in Hudson. And with that, I think that concludes our presentation. I'm not sure if I hand it to Jane or James or anybody else. Okay, perfect. Yeah, can we answer any questions? Yes. Oh.
Me? Can you hear me? Can we see if the real estate taxes on 351 Aurora Street were paid? I have a vested interest in that property.
That's funny you mentioned pictures. Those could be coming next on a lot of these tools.
The real estate's actually the county website. You could see that.
I have two questions. The first one is, I'm aware that Hudson gets water from more than one location. And we also send our waste to more than one location. How does a dashboard distinguish or keep track of that,
So
if it does?
sure, can we pull up the actual utility dashboard again? So first, I think there are two parts to your question. We'll try to cover that with the visual here. Again, I apologize for the lag. But so one of the items you saw on the utilities dashboard is these different color water lines. So I think
Yeah.
that's what you're getting at with the different
Yes.
service providers. So those very rarely change. If that's sort of what you're asking, how do we keep that
No,
up to
I'm
date?
curious to how one would track the issue of whether there's, who's going to service it? Does Hudson service all of that area, or is it serviced by the provider?
I see. Yes. So there are sort of loose jurisdictions, I would say, around how much further out each city is responsible for beyond where those water lines actually end. And that can be, sort of more of an administrative question that is beyond, the dashboard's ability. So if we say, whose job is it to fix this?
Yeah,
Unfortunately, the dashboard can't tell us,
right.
but it does tell us, exactly where Hudson ends and where Akron ends, for example. So, as you're looking at that, again, the light blue and the orange, it would really be as Hudson is looking at this, we can say it makes sense for us to expand and we're willing to expand. And then we'd have to work out, with other cities if that works for both parties. But that's a question that has come up because, for example, Hudson is able to reach certain addresses that already have what we call a main line, which is kind of like a primary heavier flow of water from Akron. So the county and, the health department are maybe it's not the health department, but another regulation basically says we're not going to run parallel water lines of that size. So you have to work with the other city that has an existing line and tap into it. So it really comes down to those kinds of, intergovernmental questions.
Yeah, so if you had to mark off the area of the city that's served by the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, for example, where would that be on the map?
We don't have,
Yeah, it gets the waste and sends it north.
we don't have the NEO, the Northeast Ohio Regional
okay.
Sewer District on this map. All we have noted here is that our residents are served by Summit County Department of Sewer. But the type of information like you're asking about is something we could definitely add and expand on. So, there could be future versions of this, or if there were a need to see that, we can pull that kind of data from even other governments at different levels, and we can go ahead and add it to these over time. Depends on kind of what questions come forth from them.
Yeah, because I'm thinking about as Hudson continues to develop large facilities, it's a good idea not to have surprises in terms of the capacity to serve them, whether it's water or sewer. And I know we get our water from multiple sources.
Oh,
So,
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, I know that this in particular Towbridge Trail or Lane, I think it's right over here in this area. I know that's something, we just recently discussed too, is the capacity. And that's something that our Public Works Department and Water and our engineers are very aware of. And they do discuss, anytime new developments come on, they're looking at how much will we draw this down. And again, this helps be able to visualize and even do a quick count of the addresses. I'll show that really quickly too. So for example, if we're adding something here, I can make a selection using what we call our lasso tool. And we can say, this number at the top changes. Well, we have 151 people there relying on that water. So, and then the engineers come in and tell us if that's feasible.
So this should be a good tool for planning.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Thank you so much for your questions.
We have a question from Zoom from Tom Petropoulos. Did changing the traffic pattern, no turn on red at the intersection of Hudson Drive and Terex Road decrease the number of accidents?
Yes, we did see a decrease in the number of accidents at that intersection after putting the no turn in red on. It primarily, despite the fact that there were other types of accidents there, those weren't the only ones, but those were the main accidents, was the rear end accidents at that intersection, so.
We're not paying your tax bill.
I do have a more serious question. I'm sorry. Who's this mic set for? So anyway, you had a stat on there earlier about East Hine Hill and Valley View. You said that was a high, I think, reoccurring percentage of crashes. And but years ago, they put in a four-way stop there with actual stop signs, assuming people can read them. And is this data more like current, or is that based on what was happening back then before they put the, and this might not be something.
I don't think it was years ago.
Years ago it was put in? Yeah, but it's still showing as a high percentage.
I don't think it was that long ago.
It was in the last 2 years.
That they put that in?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Originally it was one way was flashing red and one was flashing yellow. And then they changed it probably within the last 2 years to a four-way stop.
Okay, and then the other thing is from looking at your stats, so it's right, because I'm a bean counter. It says Tuesdays were the highest frequency of crashes. What's going on with Tuesdays? Everybody's in a hurry?
Is that Tuesday or is that Monday? It's Friday. Okay. It's just, I don't know why it's not. Someone's. Yeah, so it's interesting that I think that's part, there seems to be a lag on this. I apologize, but various days. So the crashes by day of week here total, it would be Friday looked like our worst day here in Hudson total overall crashes for the city. You are specifically asking about Hines Hill Road though? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I answered your question.
I think, to your point though, those are the kinds of questions we're starting to explore more as we see this data. So sometimes that's kind of the best utility of these different dashboards is once we throw it up there on a map, those kinds of questions come up and we can dive into them. But that's one, that will be on our agenda. So thank you.
I have a question about the data. Does it already exist out there that you go out and find it? Do you have to set up systems where you say, we need this sort of data, so somebody needs to go out and create it for us so that we can harvest it and manipulate it and use it? I mean, it's like all usable and fantastic and love the way that you laid it out, but where's it come from? Do you have to enter a lot of data as well personally? Yeah.
So I think we can both answer that question. On just for example, on the police dashboard, I'll answer the question on that. Our police department has software that they enter all of the ticket information in. Everything that could possibly be entered for the police department is contained in their software. So from that, they are actually able to send us a data set from the software itself. And from there, we are able to have our GIS manager, Bo Chumley, he does an enormous amount of work behind the scenes for us in particular. He actually adds those layers and that data into basically what I will call a portal. So that way we are able to go into that portal and look at the data and extract it into a visually, interactive map that we are using today. So for the crash dashboard, that is where that data came from. There are other ways that we're able to use data that might be, not need to go through our GIS department. I think an example of that is the finance dashboards that are created based on performance. They're more indicating areas of where is our general fund at. This is our income taxes that we received for various years, and this is the difference from the year that we received them last year. We also base it on what is our target numbers that we're looking for financial aspects. So that information is actually easily obtained through our finance software that we use. The same thing for our utility billing information. We're able to extract we're able to extract the data from that software as well. So.
No. Okay. I think Susan covered it.
You'll win. Clearly, a lot of what we're seeing here is for internal use by the city of Hudson. Is the entire data hub available to the public? And if so, how do you publicize that it's there?
Yeah, we'll actually show how to get to it right now. So basically, here, can you just, actually, if you don't mind? Yeah, so Susan will just show, if you go to the main Hudson website, which is just www.hudson.oh.us. So that just, or if you Google City of Hudson, you'll find our website. And it's available right from that main page. So we need to screen share again, sorry. So she'll pull that up in just a second, but from our homepage, there's actually a button that will take you right to the data hub you've seen today. So when this comes up here, you'll see those 5 buttons in the circles across this front page. That first one that says data hub, it shows a couple graphs on it. We go ahead and open it. So that link will take you to this other web page, which is the data hub that has everything we've covered today and much, much more. So.
Do other communities have similar dashboards so that you might be able to compare trends with like communities?
That's definitely something that we'd like to be able to do, is sort of a more peer-to-peer benchmarking comparison with cities that are comparable to us. But right now, I mean, it just honestly, Hudson is very progressive and forward thinking in this way of using this type of data and displaying it this way. So our typical models are much larger cities. I mean, 10, 15 times our size, like your Cincinnati's and your San Diego, your Boston, that are using these types of dashboards. So right now we're modeling ourselves after kind of, some of those bigger players, but we hope that as we develop this, we'll be able to look to cities that are more our size and, by population, by geography, by other factors that make us comparable. And to be able to do some of that, it's just that honestly, there's not a good stock right now of this kind of data available from cities that are our size.
So I imagine this is fairly expensive to develop. Is this an ongoing budgetary item for the city that is subject to vote year by year, or is it just automatically funded?
Unless you want to step in, Jane, I think I can start that. But I would say, so as Susan mentioned, we have Bo Chumley who manages our data inventory, which means, you asked, I think someone gave the question about actually entering the data and making sure it's correct, kind of quality control on that. So he specializes in that. And he uses a software suite that the city has and, has had for a long time. So what Susan and I are doing is just using different pieces of that same suite in a different way. So since we started this data initiative, we have not bought additional software for anything you've seen today. It's part of what was being included in our previous purchase, but underutilized, and now we're putting it to use. Hi.
Morning. This is the comment. Some years ago, I saw one of my neighbors dumping pollutant into the sewer line. And so I called the city and I said, what kind of response have you got in terms of identifying where this source came from when it was down in the sewer? And they said, we have none. And the city of Cleveland also indicated that also. What comes from Hudson, we don't know if it's polluted. That's just a comment. Number two is I know there's a number of gas wells in the city. On Hudson, I think we have 3 gas wells. And I know the state is the source of looking at this stuff. What does the city have in relationship to that? Number 3 is I love to go on Google Map and I look at all the lakes that are in our community. One in Laurel Lake is Ryder Lake. Ryder Lake feeds into Mud Lake, and Mud Lake flows all the way down into the Cuyahoga River. And I often wondered what would happen if something happened with Pine Lake. Pine Lake goes all the way up to Hines Hill and comes down. Just a comment.
Yeah, those are good and, you know, very observant and specific comments. I wish I could speak a bit better to them, but as far as the gas well data that you mentioned, I'm not sure exactly what's in the city database on that. We have a lot more data available that we haven't, you know, gotten to visualize yet that you don't see on that website. So on the website, that's everything we've used data to create something from. But I would also point out, our email is available on the bottom of the site. But I just also like to say, for now, if you have specific questions about different types of data and you are interested in learning more, you can put in a request, either using the form for information that's on the site. We don't have the screen up, do we? Sorry, I just wanted to point out that there is a way to say that. But we also have an email for our team. It's datateam@hudson.oh.us. If you had a particular follow-up question about anything you've seen today.
So on the gas wells, when we were presented a gas well at the school district proposal, they actually showed us a map. I mean, Hudson is perforated with gas wells, far more than you think. But I agree. I think it would be interesting to have that information, particularly with the geographical notation on that, where those exist. And I just wanted to say also, I'm really glad that Hudson's making these decisions based on this data and analysis rather than postings on the Hudson Roundtable. This seems to be a much better way to make decisions on where to put traffic lights and stop signs and so forth. But one last thing is, we'll probably talk to our treasurer and see, because we have a huge amount of data over at the schools district and dashboards and do a lot of analytics, and it might be interesting to sort of share some ideas that you've been doing with what we're doing to see if we can benefit from that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You know, I want to congratulate you and the city for doing what you're doing. I think it's a marvelous thing. We're fortunate in Hudson, we don't have much of a crime experience. What do you have on the dashboard of the police to help the police analyze crime statistics and make decisions based on the data that you're mining?
So the dashboard that was created is basically just specific to crashes. We definitely have spoke to the chief of police about other data initiatives. Crime is one of them. Also, being able to staff his officers in the correct location is also another initiative that we're looking at, because, you know, if you think about it, there may be a need in a different quadrant of the city versus somewhere else.
Yes.
And we might need, you know, 3 officers in one area versus 1. So those are very good points and very good questions about, you know, what are we looking at visually for crimes and also what type of crime. And yes, absolutely, we'll be looking at those initiatives in the future.
We did get a question on chat. For the data, what is the margin of error?
I'd say it can vary by data set. So I think I probably don't want to say anything I'll be quoted on as far as that right now. And it does depend. But like you said, we do have a dedicated person who does quality control on everything that ends up here. So before it's publicly displayed, it's very well vetted. I mean, to the point of, almost item by item in some of our more particular data sets. And with something like the police data, as Susan mentioned, it's pulled directly out of our software where officers on site are entering the information and we're just extracting it directly from there. So as well as, the officer is entering the detail, which is highly accurate, that's as accurate as the data is. So we like to think that that has to be, 100% or very, very close.
Well, actually, so
Police.
I'm a statistician. So technically what's meant by margin of error is when you see on a dashboard, it says that a certain intersection has more accidents. How can you be sure that it really does have more accidents? It's just not some sort of randomness that it showed up higher than somewhere else. And I from the maps, what you're showing coincides with what intuitively is happening. So, but a statistical analysis would say, oh no, this is just random, noise, or, oh no, this really is a significant difference.
Sure. I'm sorry. I think I may have misunderstood in the beginning, but no, that's a very, very good point. And I think a lot of what we've developed so far, aside from that particular example, has been mainly exploratory. So like we've said, as you display these things, it raises more questions. But you're absolutely right. As we dive into the actual statistical analyses on some of these things, which is really honestly more next phase for us. Like I said, this is quite exploratory. You're absolutely right. I mean, we'd want to be accounting for other data that we have factored into that, like traffic volumes that are available from our engineering department and other, key stats like that of course would affect, like you said, whether there is a true change. So thank you.
I live in Whitehorse Acres and we have wells. It's south side of Hudson Aurora on the other side of Stowe. And I know that the development that is past us was built after us and they have they have water, okay? And I've lived here for 35 years. I don't remember a whole lot of times when water, in my time, when water was extended to, neighborhoods that are on wells. I know, of course, when new construction comes up, so I have a nice little chemical factory in my basement that after 35 years, I've figured out how to have nice water in my house, which is fine. But is there a plan or is there any methodology to sort of extend that process? You know what I mean? Maybe that's more for you, Jane.
Sure. Yeah, Jane, if you'd like to.
So you're on the east side of Stowe? Okay. So again, if you go back to the dashboard, and they don't need to do that, but if you look at the dashboard and you see your region is Akron water, and we can't, EPA will not allow us to cross Akron water, their main transmission line, unless Akron agrees to it. Akron's not going to agree to it. So if your neighborhood, I mean, we've been fighting with Akron for years over that. And that's one of those things that Skylar Sutton, your ward council member, and those before him have been advocating is how do we get over to serve the underserved in the Akron water area? That's the issue. So that is an easy way when you look at that and you see the blue lines, which are Hudson water, and the yellow lines, which are Akron. Then there's the other properties that are over in the yellow area that are on well water. Those are the houses like yours that would like to have water. Akron's not going to expand their water without you paying for it, and we can't.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. It looks like that concludes our questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation today. It was very insightful. Data is always good. So one of the tasks of our presenters is you have to pull the ticket for our drawing. So we'll let one of you.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, they can't see what's happening. I could be
Huh?
looking at the ticket. Aha.
All right, there's a ticket. And
All right, I've got 716223. Oh, he said this is the wrong ticket.
of course he does. Ben's got the winning ticket. All right. So you've got Ron Strobel's ticket. Okay. He's donating it back? All right, so he's donating the 11 back, but he wants to draw for the pot. Confirm that there's a black marble in there? All right. No. All right. So the jackpot is at $153 and will continue to grow. There you go. You guys can go up off the stage. Here it comes, Tom. All right. Did you know the Norwegian Navy puts barcodes on the sides of their boats? Why is that? Because they're Scandinavian. Tom asked, and we are adjourned.